Thank you so much for coming. We're so glad to see all of you here today. So we're here because we were lucky enough to attend a session with Google Earth Outreach and the Institute at the Golden Gate last month. So on behalf of myself, Michael Norelli, Ben, Fash, and Melissa Sang, we just all wanted to thank you so much for coming to hear a little bit about what we've learned. Google Earth Outreach is a group at Google that travels around the world and teaches people how to use Google tools to find environmental and social justice. So we were lucky enough to attend a 2-day session hosted by the Institute there, where we learned all about these tools. The collaboration between Google Earth Outreach and the Institute started years ago when they invited the head of Google Earth Outreach, Rebecca Moore, to present at Turning the Tide, and then deepened as Google Earth Outreach utilized the Institute for its own partner meetings. So hosting this 2-day session was a great logical next step in deepening that collaboration, and we've been lucky that their partnership has now helped 80 people from environmental organizations around the world. So that's who attended this 2-day session, as well as the 4 of us, our partners from the National Park Service and the Presidio Trust, some of whom were also in attendance at the session, and now all of you. So welcome. The session had a train-the-trainer model, which means that we've been charged with coming back to our organizations and teaching all of you how amazing these tools are and how you can use them in your own lives. So we learned many things, including what's possible using Google Earth and Google Maps, how other organizations are using these tools for their own projects to great success, and we hope to inspire you and show you how to use them so that you can share what you're doing with your community and help other people get involved and support you. So Google's geographic tools are free, they're a powerful resource, and they tell the story of the park in a visual and accessible way, especially to the next generation. For those of you who already have some ideas for projects you'd like to use these tools for, we're looking forward to giving you a taste of what's possible using them. We hope you'll be inspired to learn more, and to that end, the 4 of us will be hosting a hands-on session later in the spring where we'll teach you exactly how to use them. So if you are ready to jump in and create a Google Maps or Google Earth project for your program, and this sounds interesting, please let us know after the session today, and we'll make sure that we keep in touch with you about that hands-on session. And for those of you managers in the room, we're here today to let you know what's possible and get you excited about Google Earth and Google Maps so that you can support your team as they try to negotiate this learning curve. And if you have someone in mind on your staff who should attend this hands-on session, let us know that as well. So here's our agenda today. Google Earth and Google Maps, they're 2 different things. I'm going to tell you how they're different. Why this matters, why should you care, why are we here? Ben is going to tell you. Then he'll show you some examples of what other organizations that have done extraordinary projects using Google Maps and Google Earth, providing an important service to their constituents and moving their causes forward more easily than they would have otherwise. So we want to inspire you and give you some great examples from projects that have already happened. It's easy. Michael's going to show you just how easy it is to use these tools. You will be shocked at just how much you can do right now without a lot of training or effort. We'd also like to demystify Google Earth for you and spark some ideas for how you can use these tools. And finally, resources. We've compiled a number of helpful resources to get you started, and we'll let you know where to find them. So, Google Earth and Google Maps. 2 different things. Raise your hand if you've used Google Maps before. Yes. Raise your hand if you've used Google Earth before. So some of you have. That's great. Welcome to all of you in the room. Okay. Google Earth and Google Maps are 2 free tools, both relating to mapping information. Why does this matter to us? We have a lot of geographic data at the Parks Conservancy. Trails, visitor centers, restoration projects, native plant nurseries, native plants. raptors with radio tracking devices on them, geographic data is surrounding us. We also care because we are a complex organization with audacious goals, and these tools can help us make our projects concrete. They can help us share them with people who can champion us in the community, and that's what we need sometimes to make these projects move forward. Google Maps and Google Earth can help us. Betty said yesterday we have over 1 million native plants that we've grown in the native plant nurseries over our history. That number sounds incredibly big, but it's hard to connect to. How about if we could put a pin on each place a volunteer has planted a plant in our parks in the past year? With the information about the nursery it came from, the type of plant, why it's important to be planted there, and how you can go volunteer to do the planting. What if we want to map a hike in our parks with information along the route about what our projects department volunteer programs and native plant program helped make happen there along the route? This is actually easy to do using Google tools. And it's free. And it's easy to share with other people. So Google Maps. Most of us know what these look like. They are 2D online maps that you can find in a web browser. What if you are hosting a volunteer project, hike, or other event, and you want to give people driving directions to get there and tell them where the parking lot is? This is a great use of Google Maps. It's web-based, which means anyone can access it through their own browser. And looks like this. So here's a great map that Tammy just made last week. And what this map is showing is all of our members across the country. So she's able to show this to her colleagues in the retail store to encourage them and let them know that their efforts to sell memberships to tourists as well as locals is actually working. These are great things to use Google Maps for. Most of us have probably already used Google Maps, so you have a general idea about this, and Michael's going to show you some more engaging things that you can use Google Maps for a little bit later. Google Earth. Google Earth offers satellite imagery of the Earth, both current and historic, so you can see how places have changed over time. It's 3D, based on satellite imagery. You can see terrain. It's not just a bird's eye view, but a bird's experience. You can embed media like audio, video, and photos. You can create tours so people can see what you want them to see. And this is what it looks like. So here we are in Google Earth. Here's Chrissy Fields. So one of the really cool things about Google Earth is that there's historic satellite imagery over time. So we can see what Chrissy Field used to look like. And we can see each of the snapshots that have been taken over time. So here we are looking at the area where the marsh is now, back in 1993. In 2000, and throughout time as the area has been rehabilitated. All the way up to today, or September 2010. Something else that's great about Google Earth is that it's three-dimensional, which means a lot more when you can actually see it. So we're flying over to the Palace of Fine Arts, and we're going to scroll in a little. And now, we're going to see what 3D really means. Isn't that nice? So since it's 3D, you get more of a visceral experience of actually being there, which helps us tell our stories. Google Earth is an application that lives on your computer, which means you need to install it. And once you've installed it, you will also get a plugin them in what they already have. So I'm just going to minimize this. Okay, I'm just going to... I don't use Macs, sorry. Okay, this is my last slide. I'm just going to show it to you like that. Okay, Google Earth and Google Maps. They are both great. They are both free. They are both easy to use. They are both easy to share. They both have different strengths. So as you are inspired to start your own project related to mapping and geographic data, think through the strengths of each and you'll figure out which one is the best one for your project. So now I'd like to introduce Ben Fash. He is going to inspire you to use Google Earth or Google Maps in your next project by telling you why these are such valuable tools and showing you some other organizations that have used them with great success.
Hi everybody, my name is Ben Fash. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of unfamiliar faces. I'm a Butler Kochland Fellow working with Greg Moore for a one-year mentorship program here at the Parks Conservancy. And having moved to the Bay Area only 3 years ago, I can remember pretty clearly how much I've relied on maps to find my way around and get to know the place and to find the parks even. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you and to talk about how we might transform the experience that I had, which was looking in the glass case at the Muni stalls, to something that's a lot more interactive, a lot more engaging and inspiring. And now that Wendy's given us an overview of Google Maps and Google Earth, I'm going to talk about why we're presenting these tools to you. And that includes how other organizations have used them and how they're relevant to the work of the Park Service, the Trust, and the Conservancy. So let's start out. Why are we here? What are we all doing? We're preserving the parks. We're enhancing the experience of park visitors, and we're creating a community dedicated to conserving the parks for the future. So our mission is fundamentally about caring for and enjoying spaces. Now, maps like the one behind you here, they sort of reflect the status quo of how in our culture we represent space. These sorts of static maps can provide a lot of information, but compared to Google Earth, they're pretty limited in their ability to tell stories and communicate what our values are. I like to think of the difference being somewhat akin to, that would be a single photograph, and what you can do in Google Earth is kind of like an entire film. So, of course, it's a little ironic that our mission here is so much about getting people outside, and yet we're talking about how to engage people on the screen and keep them interested there. But I want to make clear that this software, and no piece of software, is going to put trees in the ground, is going to clear trails, or is going to help kids move their tents in the rain in their first camping experience at Rob Hill, as happened recently. But interactive maps can help motivate people to get out there and do those things, or motivate people to donate resources to fund those programs. I'll go on and say that between our three organizations, we have an incredible variety of programs. I'm just learning about them, but all of our facts, over 80,000 acres, over 31,000 volunteers, 100 restoration sites, 500,000 birds of prey at the Raptor Observatory. This is all astounding, but really it can get pretty abstract, and to a lot of us it could be better communicated visually. So, especially since we're in an urban area, our constituencies are using digital technology to access information more by the day. People are often visiting websites before they visit places, and really a lot of people visit websites while they're visiting places. People walk around with their GPS devices. Why am I here? What can I do here? Let's take advantage of that, So really, and I know that our members are begging us for more trail maps, and we can make these really interactive, as I'll show you. Really, I'm just looking to show you a number of different ways that we can address the need for information. I'll present 3 examples of why other organizations have been using mapping tools, how they've used Google Earth to tell their stories, and I'll hint at what we can draw from their work, but that's up to you as you look at these things too. So as you look at the examples, I hope you'll consider how you might apply these techniques to your work in your programs. I'm going to start us out with an example on the web that everybody can see, regardless of whether you download Google Earth or have a plugin or anything. It is in the Wall Street Journal's website, of all places. start out with New York, because they're very New York-centric, but let's look at San Francisco. What you get here, and I'm sorry if you can't read it too easily, is at the top we've got information, you can't read it, but it's got the times of the winning runners and how many people participated. San Francisco really doesn't get that many people. And it's the hills, and it gives you a little elevation profile, which you can actually see a lot better down here. And the temperature, which we like to attract people with. But really, the commanding thing on this site is the visuals. You get three things. One is a map that shows you the route here in blue. And another, which I'll pull up in a second, is Google Street View. I imagine a lot of people have seen this before, but what's really great is that this interacts, all these things go together with the elevation profile. So, we start, this is the beginning of the race, gives you all the hills in San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge and everything. And the really fun thing is to imagine yourself as a runner going through, and you start out on Embarcadero, and you can see our character just gliding along effortlessly in the marathon there on this green carpet. But it shows you what the marathon is going to be like. A couple places it doesn't have information, but let's go all the way right onto the Golden Gate Bridge, and you actually get the experience a little bit of what it's like to run on the bridge. And you can take a second and have a look around. I don't really want to run anymore. Maybe I just want to go up to the headlands, But this is just really fun, and I think when this was presented to us at the Institute, all of us that were there were just beaming at each other, like, oh, trails! We need to do this for our trails. Like, imagine if you could give people this kind of understanding of how difficult the trail is, what they're going to see along the way. And if we look at the New York City example, since it's the Wall Street Journal, they've developed their New York Marathon information a little more, and they actually have these little green icons you can see where people are telling their stories, and they went and got testimonials from the winning runners in the race. So these pop up. Sorry you can't read them, but here's one of the winners, and he talks about what it's like at each step of the race. Goes along, telling more and more, and they give an image of each area. But just imagine being able to tell stories about people's experiences on the trails, or we're having the Chrissy Field testimonials on Facebook. We can put that information up. All right, but I'll move on and get off the marathon trip onto how conservation organizations have used Google Earth in sort of a more complex way. So Google has, within Google Earth, what's called the global awareness layers. And this is to educate us a little bit on what's going on around the world. We're just going to scratch the surface. I'm just going to show you this one example of many that they have in global awareness. And it's about Appalachian mountaintop removal. Many of you may be aware that one of the greatest environmental catastrophes in the United States is mountaintop removal coal mining. Mountains are blown up to 800 vertical feet, or just completely removed permanently for the extraction of coal, and that provides us with our electricity. It's hard to get a sense of these places from the ground. I mean, not only is it remote, but it's private. And really, even if you were to go there, it's hard to grasp the entire scale. I mean, this is stretching across several states. Let me see if I can add on borders. But basically, you only really start to grasp the scale of this by getting an aerial view. So one of the groups that contacted Google was a grassroots organization of 5 people called Appalachian Voices in North Carolina. For years, they'd been raising money and taking politicians to fly over the coal fields to see the over 400 blown up mountains there. And clearly this process was reaching a select few, and these politicians weren't doing very much about it. So they got in touch with Rebecca Moore from Google, who had used the technology to stop a redwood logging plan up in California. And they wanted to know how they could tell their story virtually, how they could get people motivated. And they outlined their goals as being fourfold. To convey the massive scale of destruction caused by mountaintop removal coal mining while connecting users to the human communities that are impacted and the human tragedies caused by the destruction. To 2, to link users to the web where they can learn more about mountaintop removal, read about the effort to end it, and most importantly, to take action to help stop it. 3 is to provide a platform to create and engage a network of supporters who they could partner with on a long-term basis to end mountaintop removal. And lastly, they wanted to develop a resource to educate and regularly update decision makers, media, bloggers, and other Americans about mountaintop removal. So after getting a training much like ours from Google Earth Outreach, they teamed up with 6 partners around the area to create what you see here, which is just a massive amount of content about mountaintop removal, and we're just going to start to talk about it. Let me fly us into one of the mines called the Hobet Mine Complex, and this is about 10,000 acres or so. What they've done is they've created a tour of what looks pretty abstract. So let's get right into it. There are a whole bunch of steps that'll take you through exactly how they blast the mountain, they clear the mountain, how they get the coal out. But I'm going to go to this site and talk about what exactly are we looking at here. This actually used to be a riverbed, and it was completely filled with toxic debris, but it's considered to be legally remediated and recovered because these strips of grass here represent their remediation and their kind of restoration. Okay. So let's look at what's behind it, and this is where the storytelling feature really comes in and is key to tell people what's actually going on. You see this image? This is what's actually under the soil. It's toxic debris that's full of mercury, selenium, and other substances that are leaking into people's drinking water around there. Now let's talk a little more about the communities. They have developed all this data to tell the story of each community that's affected by the mountaintop removal, and you just click on any of these little helmets and it'll tell you, you see an image of a mudslide here, and it gives an example of a 3-year-old boy that was peacefully sleeping at night and was actually crushed by a boulder that came through his window and killed him. So, anyways, this is all really heart-wrenching, but I'm going to stop there and just go right into the question of why does this matter to us? We are so far away from this. The East Coast is basically, literally, as close to us as Cuba. And we get our power from PG&E, and we have a whole separate bunch of issues that we can deal with them about. But really, the web will show us how we're all connected. And I'm going to go to their website, which is called ilovemountains.org. And the first thing it asks you is, what's your connection to mountaintop removal? So we type in our zip code here, 94123, and show my connection. Ask us, yes, use PG&E, I assume. You are connected to mountaintop removal, in fact. Your electricity provider, PG&E, buys poles from companies engaged in mountaintop removal. They give you a Google map here. I'm actually going to bring it right into Google Earth. And it's this pretty incredible graphic that's telling us exactly where we're getting our power, thanks to PG&E. Here's the Stockton power plant, and we're getting our power eventually from these mining sites in Appalachia. Actually, we can go right in to which mine it is, and as it turns out, we're getting our power from Black Mountain, Virginia, which is exactly where, you can see right here, you may not be able to read it, it's that story of the 3-year-old boy. That's where we're getting our power. So, at any rate, I'll wrap up here, but that kind of awareness, just understanding how we connect to places, it's what has made this such a successful tool for their campaign. I mean, newspapers from around the country are writing up this story, and right up on the front page of their website, you can see how you can get involved, how you can sign petitions, write your congresspeople, etc. And overall, I think the Appalachian mountaintop removal really brings to light how many different ways we can virtually show people our parks and our story and get them to care about and engage with these places. I mean, so much of our mission here is to give people a sense of ownership over the parks and how they relate to them. And really this last piece of putting in your zip code can give you that sense of connection. I mean, if we we can draw lines to where the nearest trailhead is, which is actually data that's being developed by a group called Transit and Trails. But imagine also, where is your nearest volunteer program? Or what are the endangered species that are closest to you? Or what programs do we have going on that you could fund? I mean, all these things could be instantly translated to somebody visiting our website or downloading our Google Earth information. It also highlights the importance of partnering. And I said before, 7 partners created all this data. There are a number of groups in the Bay Area. We spoke to some of them at the Institute that are interested in partnering and exchanging information. So hopefully we can do that as we go forward. And I think I'll stop there with Appalachia and go to my last example. I want to show you guys just a little bit of how Google Earth is used to advocate for an issue that just about everybody, I hope, can agree is important, but few people in our country get a chance to experience firsthand, and that's tropical deforestation. Having grown up in Honduras, I can tell you all about how that's affected me, but I want to go to the Amazon and show you guys a pretty inspiring story here with a group called the Sudui tribe. Let's see. Hold it up. And into Amazonia. What you see here is a similar thing as mountaintop removal had going. These are all of the people that this group called the Sudui tribe partnered with in order to create their data and to get their message out. And as I zoom in here, you can see just how much they've developed. There's actually a lot more that's not showing up right away. But you can click on their custom-made icons here and get information that unfortunately you can't read. So what I'm going to do is actually have them and Rebecca Moore from Google Earth Outreach tell the story for you in a real concise way here. So let's just jump right into this video. Hope you can hear it.
Well, she's not healthy, we're not.
Able to take photographs, videos that are GPS located, immediately upload to
Everybody here?
Google Earth, and use this as a way to protect the forest.
Nós vivemos já tem um jeito de viver na floresta. Nós não precisamos de matar para viver. Quem defende a floresta passa pela essa vida. Começaram a me ameaçar, madeireiros, as pessoas. Já foram mortos 11 lideranças.
Chief Almir had seen Google Earth in an internet cafe in 2007, and he asked for our help. His idea was if we could teach the young people how to use YouTube, how to interview the elders, record this content, attach it to Google Earth, it would be a way of sharing their culture with the world. When we came down this year, we trained the Surui people on how to use a new technology using cell phones. So when illegal loggers penetrate their land, they'll be able to take photographs, videos that are GPS located, immediately upload to Google Earth, alert the law enforcement authorities, and use this as a way to protect the forest. So who's ever responsible for enforcing the law, they can't deny that it happened anymore because 500 million people around the world can see it with their own eyes. Tropical deforestation accounts for 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we all produce. Chief Almir Scott, many members of the tribe organized to replant the forest that had been illegally logged. Using cell phones, they can document what trees are there and where there's the blank areas and document their plans for planting so that they can gain access to the carbon offset marketplace.
Durante 10 anos, a gente quer plantar mínimo 1 milhão de mudas.
Everyone can do something to stop deforestation this year. Go to your country representative, to the Copenhagen Climate Change Treaty, and get your government to support REDD.
E assim a gente quer manter a nossa contribuição a bem-estar do nosso planeta. A partir do nosso sabedoria que usamos da floresta para oferecer isso.
Okay. I feel like I'm promoting video and YouTube just as much as Google Earth with that one. But, to give you an idea, I've looked into this project a little more of how incredible it would be if they can secure a long-term agreement for a carbon project. If their forest were to burn, that fire would emit the equivalent of about 40 years of San Francisco's carbon emissions. So when word got out about this project, because of the Google Earth work that they did, the Smithsonian, the New York Times, the Chronicle, the Independent newspaper in the UK, they were all over this story. And it's just blown up. And I'm pretty sure they're on their way to securing that carbon project. But going back to the video, there were quite a few novel uses of the technology there. One that you saw was using cell phones. We actually did that at the Institute. We went around and took photographs of plants that were around Fort Baker, and you can develop, so much information about these. And it's not to say that we need to do this right now to tell our story. It's much more about this is where things are going. And we need to be right on the cutting edge with this, or at least, at the status quo of how it's moving along, because there's quite a lot of work that's been done so far. The younger generations just gobble this stuff up. I can imagine kids at Chrissy Field. We were talking yesterday at the all-staff meeting for the Conservancy about how brilliant it would be if kids could go around, take a photograph of a plant, and instantly have from the internet information about that species. I don't think, the face detection software that we have in iPhoto or whatever really translates just yet in that sense, but the ideas are there, and hopefully we can think of what's most relevant to us in that sense. Like I said, the things that I've shown are just scratching the surface of what other groups have done, and there's a lot more to explore. Michael will talk about resources that you can use at the end of his talk. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Norelli, the GIS coordinator of the Parks Conservancy, and he's going to talk to you about just how easy it is to use these tools.
Okay, so we're dumping a lot of information on you. How is everybody feeling? You ready to dive in a little bit? Okay. So of course, if you can marshal the resources of a lot of partnerships, you can create really rich content like we've seen here. Ben mentioned that they used 6 or 7 different organizations that all contribute to this and built this very rich information resource. Well, I'm just going to scratch the surface on how it's possible to do some of this in maybe a smaller way, but so we can kind of see the path that we can head down if we wanted to create these kind of information resources. Can I just get a show of hands? How many people have actually used, I saw how many raised for Google Maps. How many people have used Google My Maps before and saved their own content? Okay, great. So maybe some of this will be new information. That's where I want to start. So let's see here. Let's see. So we'll go to Google Maps. I'm going to sign in as me. And it is a good thing to get a Google account because then you get access to all of the things that Google provides. Access to YouTube, a YouTube account, Casa account for storing photos, and those kind of things. I don't know how you feel about the takeover of the world that Google is leading the charge into. No, that's kind of a joke. But they do have as their mission to gather up the world's information. So this is maybe a road down that way. Okay, so here's your familiar Google Earth interface. You can zoom into an area of interest. And this is pretty typical, right? So you can put in, do a search and it'll lead you to where you want to go. There's a link up here at the top that says Google My Maps. And when I click this, it shows you how you can create, or it leads you into the part of the application where you can create your own map. Notice I've done a few of these here. So I'm going to create a new map. And let's say, for my example, I was involved in November with a lot of Conservancy staff to do a big planning out at Land's End. And I want to be able to lead people to that location and give them a little bit of some rich content that kind of talked about my experience. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I can't really see the slope that we were on, so I'm going to switch to the satellite view. Notice when I hover over this corner here, I get some more choices. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the slope that we were on. And we did all this great revegetation work. and we were about right there. And here I can type in, this is my planting location, and since I'm doing titles and descriptions here, I should call this my planting day, and I can include a description. Here's where we were. Okay, and if I just save that, now, and click done, now I can click on this bubble, and look, there's my title, my planting location title. Pretty straightforward. If I go back in and edit, I can pop up that bubble again, and I get some choices. So I actually, you know, those familiar sort of Google icons are fine, but I want to add in my own special icon. And I have, well, let's see, let's just go to the internet here. I'm going to open up tab, oops, yeah, tab, and search, let's see, just in Google for wetland icon. Not maybe exactly appropriate for what we're doing here, but for the sake of example. Oh, there's a nice one. Okay, so I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to right-click it and say copy image address. And I'm going to use that information inside of my Google Map. When I add an icon, I get this box pop up. I can paste in. Notice I didn't have to write any of this code. I'm just stealing from the internet, which is a tried and true method for getting some really rich content. So there's my watershed icon. Fantastic. And let's say I want to include a picture. On the Parks Conservancy website, we have people have really done some really wonderful things with, here's my image, adding pictures to the website for the sake of the press mostly, and for people like me who steal code. And I can go into this rich text link here, click on add an image, and paste in this code, which is just a link to a JPEG, a regular old image file that's hosted somewhere on the web. I'll say OK, and look, the picture appears. So I'll say OK there, save and done. Now when I click on my location, the bubble pops up. Hello. There we go. There's my picture. Look, there we were, right on the hillside. We were planting there. Wonderful. Okay, so that's how you can add an image. Let's add a video. So once again, we'll go on the web. We can search through, let's say, YouTube, just because they offer this pretty easily. And I'll do, I'll search for that lands and planting video that I know is on there. And let's see, where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. And down here at the bottom, there's a little embed code. It gives us some code. Again, if you're codophobic, just look away. Wait, let me stop this here. If you're codophobic, just look away. Don't look at the code. It won't hurt you, I promise. We actually want to use the old embed code, and all you have to do is copy and paste. So there's my copy, and I can go back to Google Maps, and I can, let's see, I believe it's edit HTML. Here we go. Look, my YouTube video is embedded inside of my bubble. So now I can have some really rich content connected with my location. Hey look, the Conservancy staffers.
What you doing?
All right. Let's see. Should I pick her over there? Yes. Thanks. Okay. So moving right along. So you can add in a Picasa slideshow. Once again, the same method. Go to Picasa, find your author a slideshow first, and then when you save it to Picasa, you get that little embed button. Click it. Copy out the code. You don't have to look at it. You just paste it right into the bubble, and you're good to go. All right, so I'm going to move on to Google Earth now. But before I go away from this, I just want to show that one of the choices I have up here is Earth and Map. If I click Earth and I have the Google Earth plugin installed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, it'll switch views to our really rich 3D interface. This is right through the web. This is not in Google Earth, the application. And I can do all those fun things that we showed before, swooping around. And oh look, there's the point and the I guess that's the new parking lot being built up there. Okay, so now let's switch over to Google Earth. And a lot of the same concepts are really familiar. They're sort of implemented a little bit differently. Here somewhere familiar. San Francisco. Dizzy? Okay. All right. So here we are again. Now, recently, is Flash here? Flash.
He's in a program.
Okay, so Flash came to me a while ago and said, Michael, I've got some visitors from Germany who are coming, and I want to show them all the great stuff that we're doing at the Mirror Beach restoration work, and how it links in to the watershed going all the way up to Mount Tamalpais. How do I do that in Google Earth? Well, Ben, I'm glad you asked. I can now answer your question. Okay, so turn off the demo information. Shows here. Okay. All right, so first let's start off with hiding our demo information. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here we are. There's Mirror Beach. There's the parking lot that's going to soon be reoriented differently. And let's see, this shows a 2011 photo. And this is our general area here. Okay, so I want to add some content. First, I'll add a place mark. Oh, let me talk a little bit about the interface really quickly. So we just brushed over this in the earlier examples, but I want to show you these things. So up here, all along the left column here is all the content that we can add. Stuff that exists in Google Earth and stuff that's stuff that we can add. And then also a little search function. So up here is the top. You saw me do this before. You can type in, it acts just like Google Maps to search. It gives you some choices of different locations and it saves the one you've been to. Down at the bottom here where it says layers, this is all content that comes with Google Earth natively. So this is all stuff that's installed along with Google Earth. We get your typical borders and labels that kind of get more dense as you zoom closer in. Here's all the global awareness information that Ben talked about. And there's roads. If I click that on, you can start to see that the roads fill in. Right roads? Turn this one on. There we go. So there's the roads that popped in that weren't there before, etc. And there's even 3D buildings. Wendy showed this in her demo of the Palace of Fine Arts. It's actually a 3D building of the Palace of Fine Arts that was built in a program, a Google program, called SketchUp, which is a way that you can actually take CAD information and make it three-dimensional, or basically just build three-dimensional objects that you can harvest then inside of Google Earth. And a lot of people have done this. Google has collected all of these and presented it as 3D buildings layer. Okay, and then going across the top here, we have some buttons that add content. So if I hover over this one, you can see that's an add a place mark, add a polygon, add a path. There's three types of geographic information. Here you can add an image overlay and a recorded tour, which I'll talk about. And then there's the historical time slider, so you can go back and forth between historic images all the way up to the present day, or whatever they have loaded up. And there's some other functions here I won't talk much more about, but you can explore that and actually take a tutorial from the resources that we'll show you at the end. Okay, so I'm going to add some content. First thing I'm going to do is add a place mark. When I click on this, I get a properties page, and then here's our little place mark. We can scoot that around, and notice how the longitude and latitude change. This is actually a pretty good way to find out what the longitude and latitude is of a particular location, just by scooting this place mark around. And I'll stop here, and I'll type in Mirror Beach. And once again, if I want to, I can change my push pin, add a custom icon. The same thing, add an icon location that's posted somewhere on the web, and it'll be fed back into this and show up as a custom icon. In the Suari tribe one, there were some custom icons that showed little people and animals and things like that. That's how they did that. And in the description field, the same thing, I can add some rich content. Rich content being things like slideshows and pictures and those things. Let's see. Oh, look, I actually even saved an icon file. Okay, let's go back into Google Earth, and I can change my icon there. Didn't change. No? Okay, we'll jump right over that. Please don't look behind the curtain. Okay, so here I can, here's the embed code that comes from a Picasa slideshow. Once again, you don't have to know what it means, just copy it and paste it. But if you want to know what it means, there are lots of tools that will let you do that. And when I say OK, and I click on my button, there it is, the slideshow. Actually, this is a slideshow of Chrissy Field. and the change over time. Which I meant to do. That wasn't an accident. All right, but you get the idea. Okay, so so when I talked with Flash about what might be possible and what we could do to show off this area, certainly it would be an interesting part of the story. Oh, I need to turn on terrain here so we can see the 3D. There we go. The mountains pop up. Okay, so here's the Redwood Creek watershed. So Redwood Creek runs up here around Diaz Ridge and goes on back up, hugging the road here, and then goes up through Muir Woods up to Mount Semmelweis. So we want to show that whole area as a tour. What I can do is go into add a path, and once again I get that little properties page, and I get this tool over here where I can draw a line. And as I add little vertices along this line, I can keep going as far as I want to up the watershed. And let's say this is Redwood Creek. Okay. And then when I'm highlighted on a path, I get another button down here at the bottom of the Places interface that has the capacity to follow a line as a tour. So there I am flying over the line that I just put in. This isn't canned, this is something that we just now did. And if I want to show all of that and tell the story about it, I can turn off the path and describe the describe things as they go by. Whoa, hey. I can even change the view as we go, so you can stop and look, oh look, there's Banducci. Oh, no, it's gone. Okay, you get the idea. So you can actually change your experience as the tour goes through. And here's the really fun thing. Let's see. Okay, so I have some locations here in a demo I cooked up earlier. So I want to be able to show some interesting places on the way before we tell our story about Redwood Creek. Here is an example of an image overlay. So you can click this image overlay button here, and then it lets you browse for a photo and drop it in and scoot around the edges of the photo to be able to show what we're seeing here, which is a photo that is comparing. This photo is taken from 1972. It shows the top of Hawk Hill against what's actually there now. Now, one of the issues that we were working with in the Conservancy was that we were making a plan to cut down a lot of the trees up on top of Hawk Hill. And we wanted to be able to show the communities that were concerned about this that these trees were introduced later on and didn't represent something that had been there historically over time. So one of the really great things is that we had a photo that showed it. So we can represent it here and show, okay, well there weren't any trees in there in 1972, and then here are the trees that we're looking to cut down. It's like, we already did, right? Okay, well, in any case. But here's our place mark that's representing that area. If I click on it, it zooms to that location. Here's another place mark that I've saved. Now, of the Rodeo Valley, and then finally back to our Muir Beach parking lot, which had some content that I authored there. Great. Okay, so that's showing how we can get to that location. Now, if I wanted to save this as a tour, start back at the beginning here. Click on my Add Tour button. I get a new box down here that has a little recording symbol and the microphone, and now I can start my tour. So I'll turn on the recorder, and then I'll go to these different place marks. Up, up, and away, in my beautiful... Oops, looks like I got started. Okay, there we go. Sounds recording. There's my next place, and here's another place I want to show. And there we go, that's the end of my tour. Okay, and then here it is, the tour we just did. Look, Ma, no hands. This is just showing...
Looks like I got late started.
Oh, there we go.
Sounds recording. There's my next place. And here's another place I want to show.
Oh, fun. You get the idea. Okay, so, and then there's a little save icon at the end here, and when I save this, it tells me to give it a name. My great tour. And then I save it, and it appears in my my places box. Now, if I wanted to export this or give it to somebody else, I'd have to add a folder. Turn this off. Add a folder, and this is my content. shows up here in my list, and I can add my Great Tour to that content folder. Right-click on the folder and do save to, or save, whoops, I did save to my places, so it appears up here. Now it'll open every time Ben opens his Google Earth. There it is, content. And then if I do save place as, it'll bring up a dialog where I can save this information as a KMZ file. Now KMZ file is KML. Maybe you've heard of KML before. It's sort of like HTML, and it contains all the information that we just produced. That KMZ file can be saved and added as an attachment to an email and sent out. Anybody who has Google Earth can open it. It can also be embedded, which I don't have enough time to show now. But you can take that information and using a couple other tools that we'll distribute through a resources page that we're developing, be able to show you how to take your KMZ file, run it through some Google code washers, get that embed code back again, and put that into your website. And then people who don't have Google Earth, but have the plugin, very important, will be able to harvest that information and see that tour that I just created, including the funny voiceover. Okay. I want to just show you a resources page that we're developing here that we're going to be adding to. Let's see if it's saved. Sites. Great. This is our Park Mapper site. These links are offered to support your efforts to create beautiful information applications using Google Earth and Google Maps. At the start at the top there, the very first link is the Google Earth Outreach team, and that's a great place to start because not only does it have lots of information about what Google Earth team does, like the examples that we saw, but also has video tutorials. So you can teach yourself how to do this, and it's very, very simple, hopefully, as you just discovered. We were hoping to maybe engage you in a little bit of a dialogue about what possible stories might be out there that would be appropriate for telling using these tools. But hopefully we can continue that conversation, check back into the resources page, and we'll distribute it to everybody who's RSVP'd or is signed up on the list in the back. We'll send you an email with the sites, google.com/site/parkmapper, a mouthful, but hopefully there'll be a lot of great information there, and we'll be harvesting your ideas about how we can produce good content for the park. I really want to thank you for spending your time with us today, and we are available to help you as you maybe take this idea and run with it, and are looking forward to hearing about your stories and the stories you want to tell and the ways that we can tell them with these tools. Thanks very much. Oh yeah, we have some questions. We have a few minutes, so.
I just want to let you guys know, who's at the February 17th public program that Rebecca Moore spoke at? We sold out in 2 hours. A couple of you were there. Anyway, if you want to see it, it's on the Institute's website in our video gallery. Would you mind pulling up the Institute's homepage? It's institute@goldengate.org, and then in the left nav there's a video gallery. And you can see all of the examples that Ben showed in more detail. And then also there were a couple of speakers from the Sierra Club and Green Info Network on how they use Google Earth. So it's an hour long. You can fast forward if you like, but it's a really nice resource that's on our own website. So institute@goldengate.org.
Not yet. There we go.
And then if you go on the left nav video gallery.
Sorry, where?
Left nav video gallery, right under. Midway. Sorry, in the white space. One. Up. Down.
Hey.
And then you click on more event videos, and that's where it is. So you'll be able to watch the full public presentation.
And please do let us know if you're interested in attending our hands-on training.
Yeah.
Can you import GIS data?
Oh, thank you for asking. Didn't have enough time to show it. Yes. We had a wonderful example of this actually working for an actual purpose. So Brian Avilas marked up a bunch of maps that showing the areas that the planning division is working on, the NPS planning division is working on, and communicating to the partners, the huge amount of partners that we're going to have for doing America's Cup at this very interesting time in the park. We were able to take all of the markups that he produced on just marking up on a piece of paper. Asha, where's Asha? Are you here, Asha? There she is. She was able to digitize these into GIS. We exported those into KML using a process that we can do there. Google Earth Pro actually is able to harvest this natively, but we were able to show this information We actually started out with PowerPoints, and Mike Savage took a look at it and looked at Google Earth and said, let's just go with Google Earth. So we had all of those areas that show areas that we need to protect for natural and cultural resources, areas that would make good viewing opportunities, areas that we might want to stage a camera for news and for First Amendment things that we do there, and be able to show all that information to the gathered groups that were there. The port, the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, various contractors, AECOM. We were able to show this in a very big meeting, going from place to place, from Fort Mason to Safford, to Crissy Field, Fort Point, and Fort Baker, and the Headlands, and be able to go through in each of these areas and show and talk about all these areas. And Mike Savage and I actually edited stuff as before we showed the example. But I asked people who were in attendance there, is this eye candy, or is this something that's useful? And every single person I talked to said that this is a very compelling way to show the information and really help them understand what they were seeing. So we've actually used this for real purposes. Just in case they want to. Yeah.
So related to GIS, are there functions that you used to do on GIS that you're now just doing through Google?
It's a really good question. We haven't developed it enough to really see, but yes, there's probably a lot of just basic display and mapping and orientation that we could do with Google Earth instead of using GIS. So, and all of you have been contributing in some way to the incredible GIS warehouse that we have built up over time, and it's pretty easy to get that information from there, behind all of that steep learning curve of learning GIS, out into a form that's really easy and accessible with a free tool that is 3-agency compatible. Anybody who has the plugin can view the Google Earth from any agency, and then, of course you can harvest a lot of stuff through Google Maps just through your regular browser that we all have on our machines. So this is really kind of leaping over the interagency walls to help us collaborate across the 3 agencies to take care of this beautiful, beautiful place.
And I saw you were using Google Earth Pro. Is that, what's the fee for that one?
$400, and I believe it's a yearly license.
And is that, do you think that for the kinds of things you're all envisioning, do you think we can just get by with the free version?
Pretty much. The only differences between Google Earth Pro and the regular plain vanilla Google, the free one, are import of GIS natively, and there's actually some issues with that. It's not as nice as you can get from taking GIS information in a third-party application to convert to KML. But Google Earth Pro is designed to harvest GIS shapefiles natively. And then also turning a tour, like you saw, into a recognized video file, like an AVI file or an MPEG file. So it does that natively too. Also, with Google Earth Pro, you can print out high-density aerial photos. Some of the stuff that you get from the regular version isn't quite nice enough to unroll on the plotter, for example, at huge scale. But Google Earth Pro is able to do that. We have a couple of licenses in the park that we got as a grant from the Google Earth outreach team, our best buddies. It is possible we would be willing to open up that conversation with them to grant us some more licenses for Google Earth Pro if it seemed like that were needed. And then also, as a condition of us granting the Google Earth Pro, they want to see what we've done. They want us to prove to them that we're actually using this tool for what it's designed for. So we'll be looking around for our mountaintop removal story, the one that's really compelling, that'll be able to engage all of the people that we need to engage, but then also show the Google Earth team that we're actually using the tool that they're designed for.
So we're actually out of time today, but let's give
We have-
Melissa a huge round of applause for setting it up. Please engage with us if you have more questions.
Stick around for more questions.